High noon sunlight slices through the Boeing field hangar in Seattle, illuminating marble floors polished to mirror shine. 200 guests in black tie attire cluster beneath a massive banner, Silver Wing Aviation, building tomorrow's sky. Champagne flutes catch the light as servers weave through clusters of aerospace executives, their laughter echoing off steel beams that arch 60 feet overhead. Victoria Ashford stands at the podium in a charcoal Armani suit that cost more than most cars, her dark hair pulled back so severely it looks painful. She raises a crystal glass, and the crowd falls silent. Ladies and gentlemen, this $180 million facility represents our commitment to excellence, innovation, and the future of American aviation. Applause ripples through the hangar. Camera flashes pop like distant lightning. Victoria's smile is perfect, practiced, and utterly empty. She brings the champagne to her lips, just as Marcus Warren Reid pushes his janitor's cart across the edge of the gathering, mop bucket sloshing slightly. His navy blue uniform hangs loose on a frame that once carried 20 more pounds of confidence. The Silver Wing logo on his chest pocket is faded from too many industrial wash cycles. A senior engineer near the champagne fountain notices Marcus, turns to his colleague with a smirk sharp enough to cut glass. "Hey buddy, you think that engine over there runs on prayers or food stamps?" His friends erupt in laughter. The sound cuts through the polite applause like broken glass through silk. Marcus stops pushing his cart, doesn't look up, just stands there as the laughter builds, spreads, infects the crowd nearest to him. Victoria hears it from the podium. Her eyes flick toward the commotion, see the janitor in the work uniform, register the mockery. For half a second, something crosses her face that might be discomfort. Then she turns back to her prepared remarks, raising her voice slightly to drown out the juvenile cruelty happening 15 feet away. Marcus kneels, pulls a rag from his cart, begins wiping up a puddle of spilled champagne on the marble, his movements methodical, almost meditative. The camera catches his hands in passing, scarred knuckles, calluses thick as leather, but fingers that move with the precision of a concert pianist adjusting for the weight of shame. He doesn't acknowledge the men still chuckling behind him, doesn't give them the satisfaction. The roar of helicopter rotors shatters the gala's carefully orchestrated elegance. Conversations die mid-sentence. Victoria's speech falters. Through the open hangar doors, a Robinson R-44 drops fast, landing hard on the tarmac just outside. The pilot doesn't bother with a proper shutdown sequence, just kills the engine and sprints toward the crowd. "Ms. Ashford," his voice cracks with urgency, "your Gulfstream, critical engine failure." Victoria's champagne glass hits the podium with a crack that doesn't quite break it. She's moving before the pilot finishes his sentence, heels striking marble in rapid percussion as 200 guests follow like a wave. Marcus watches them go, still kneeling with his rag. Then he stands, abandons his cart, and follows at a distance that keeps him outside the circle of importance. The Gulfstream G700 sits on the tarmac like a wounded whale. $75 million of engineering pride, with its port engine cowling peeled back to expose blackened metal. Smoke residue streaks the white fuselage. 18 engineers in business casual swarm the aircraft, laptops open, diagnostic cables snaking into access panels. Robert Brennan stands at the center of the chaos, tie loosened, sweat darkening his collar despite the cool Seattle air. His hands move between 3 different tablet screens as he barks instructions to subordinates who look progressively more helpless. Victoria arrives at a near run. "Status!" Brennan doesn't look up from his screens. Central turbine shaft catastrophic fusion, thermal cascade failure through the entire core assembly. He pulls up a thermal imaging scan, all angry reds and whites. The whole system is compromised. We need to replace everything. Turbine, housing, the full integration package. Time and cost. Parts have to come from Germany. 38 million for the components. 52 hours minimum for delivery and installation, assuming customs doesn't delay, and we can get FAA expedited approval. Victoria's face goes the color of ash. Tokyo deal closes in 8 hours. I have to be there, or Chen walks with 240 million. There's no other option, Ms. Ashford. This engine is dead. The words hang in the salt air like a death sentence. Around them, engineers tap screens, whisper to each other, shake their heads with the grim finality of doctors calling time of death. Marcus stands 30 feet back, at the edge of the crowd where janitors belong. His phone vibrates against his hip. He pulls it out. A text message from Lily, his 9-year-old daughter. Daddy, I'm dizzy. Sugar 340. Scared. His jaw tightens. Types back with thumbs that suddenly feel too thick. Check your kit, baby. Insulin pen. Daddy home in 20 minutes. 340 milligrams per deciliter. Dangerously high. He should leave right now. Forget this corporate theater and get to his daughter before her blood sugar sends her into ketoacidosis. His finger hovers over the cart return button on his time tracking app. Then he hears it. The engine, not the noise. The silence between the noise. The specific absence of sound that doesn't match the diagnosis being thrown around like gospel. Marcus's head tilts almost involuntarily, the way a dog catches a frequency humans can't hear. His eyes focus on the cowling, tracing lines of soot that tell a story different from the one Brennan is reading off his glowing screens. His feet move before his brain catches up, through the barrier tape, past the outer ring of gawkers. Engineers notice, exchange confused glances. Brennan spots Marcus approaching, and his face flashes something complex. Recognition, fear, anger, all compressed into a microsecond before settling on professional disdain. Reid, get back to your station. Marcus ignores him, reaches the turbine housing, pulls off his work gloves, the fabric stiff with dried cleaning solution and years of invisible labor, places both palms flat against the titanium casing. The metal is still warm, holding heat like a secret. He closes his eyes. The crowd murmurs. Someone laughs nervously. An engineer whispers to his colleague, "What the hell is he doing?" Marcus's breathing slows, deepens. His fingers spread slightly, reading micro vibrations through skin and bone. 30 seconds pass. The murmuring grows louder, more uncomfortable. Victoria watches him with an expression caught between fascination and the urge to call security. Then Marcus opens his eyes. It's not the shaft. The words cut through the noise like a blade through butter. Brennan's face goes from dismissive to panicked in the space between heartbeats. You don't have clearance to even touch thermal expansion in the secondary cooling bypass valve. Marcus's voice carries now, clear and certain, the voice of a man who spent a decade being the smartest person in rooms far more important than this one. Humidity in Seattle today is 82%. Combined with sustained altitude from yesterday's flight pattern, the valve expanded 0.037 millimeters, sent a false, catastrophic heat signal to the central processing unit. The shutdown was preventative protocol, not actual system failure. An engineer near the front actually laughs out loud. The janitor thinks he knows better than $10 million of diagnostic AI. The valve costs $4,800. Marcus doesn't raise his voice, doesn't need to. I can fix it in 15 minutes. Brennan's hands are shaking now, tablets trembling in his grip. You don't have security clearance. Touching this engine without authorization is a federal crime. I'm calling... What's your name? Victoria's question stops Brennan mid-threat. She's moved closer, studying Marcus with the intensity of someone who built $1 billion company by reading people faster than balance sheets. Marcus Reid. What do you do here, Mr. Reid? I clean floors. A pause. But I also understand engines. Something in Victoria's expression shifts, not softening. She's incapable of that in public, but sharpening in a different direction. She sees his hands, the scars, the specific pattern of calluses that come from precision work, not janitorial labor. Sees the way he's standing, shoulders back for the first time since he walked into the hangar. Sees something in his eyes that all her expensive engineers lack: absolute certainty. 15 minutes. If you're wrong, if you cause one scratch, $1 of additional damage, I will personally ensure you never work on an airfield again. Legal will dismantle your life. Marcus nods once, looks at Brennan. Start the clock. A digital countdown appears on someone's tablet, projected onto the engine housing by an engineer too stunned to argue. 1500. It begins ticking down. Marcus sheds his work jacket, rolls up sleeves that reveal forearms still corded with muscle despite 7 years of pushing mops. From his personal toolbox, battered aluminum, older than half the engineers watching, he pulls a manual calibration key. The tool looks like an artifact from another era, all analog precision in a digital world. An engineer near the front whispers to his colleague, I haven't seen one of those since my grandfather's garage. Marcus's hands stop shaking. The tremor that marked him as nervous, as out of place, as lesser, it evaporates the moment his fingers close around that tool. He moves to the engine with the confidence of a surgeon approaching an operating table, each motion economical, purposeful, containing knowledge that can't be taught from screens or simulations. Brennan whispers urgently to his assistant, pull his employee file, now, and get legal on standby. The assistant's fingers fly across her tablet. Her face goes pale. She turns the screen toward Brennan. He reads. His expression collapses into something between vindication and pure terror. Victoria notices the exchange. What? But Brennan doesn't answer. Can't answer. Because he's staring at Marcus Reid, the man he helped destroy 7 years ago, working on an engine with hands that designed the very systems Brennan has built his career on. The clock reads 13:47. And Marcus hasn't even broken a sweat. Marcus's fingers trace the valve housing with surgical precision, each touch deliberate and diagnostic. The crowd presses closer despite themselves, drawn by the magnetic pull of watching someone operate at the absolute peak of competence. He doesn't use the diagnostic computer still blinking its useless warnings 3 feet away. Doesn't consult the engineering manuals 2 junior techs are frantically scrolling through on their tablets. Just listens. Tyler Preston, 27 and already exhausted by corporate protocols that prioritize covering liability over solving problems, shifts through the wall of senior engineers. Gets close enough to see what Marcus is actually doing. The older man's head tilts at precise angles, ear nearly touching the titanium, listening to resonances invisible to every sensor in the diagnostic array. Tyler pulls out his phone, opens the raw data logs he'd compiled hours ago, when everyone else was trusting the AI's filtered interpretation. Sir, the word comes out barely above a whisper, nervous. I pulled the unfiltered harmonic data. There's a flutter at 14 Hz the AI classified as environmental noise. Marcus doesn't look up from his work. His hands continue their precise dance, adjusting micrometers at a time. Good eye, son. The algorithms filter out what they're programmed to ignore. But machines don't lie. Only our interpretation of their language does. Trust your ears before you trust the code. Tyler's face flushes with something between vindication and the dawning realization that he's been working in a building full of people who've forgotten how to actually engineer. Around them, the countdown reads 11:23. Senior engineers check their watches, exchange knowing glances that say this stunt will end in disaster and lawsuits. Victoria's executive assistant works her tablet with increasing urgency, pulls file after file, her expression shifting from professional curiosity to open shock. She turns the screen toward Victoria, who reads without moving her face, without giving anything away to the crowd. But her pupils dilate. Her breathing changes rhythm. Marcus Warren Reid, MIT Aerospace Engineering, summa cum laude, 2005. Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, 2008 to 2017. Lead engineer on classified turbine projects, 14 patents. Whistleblower report filed March 2017 regarding critical hydraulic system flaws in military retrofit program. Terminated June 2017. Industry blacklist notation. Do not hire. Litigation risk. Spouse Carolyn Reid. Deceased February 2018. Ovarian cancer. Medical debt. $412,000. Current employment. Silver Wing Aviation, custodial services, hired August 2018. Victoria looks up from the screen, watches Marcus work, sees him completely differently now. Not a janitor playing engineer, but an engineer forced to play janitor. The distinction crashes through her carefully constructed worldview like a wrecking ball through drywall. Brennan hovers at the edge of the workspace, tablet clutched like a shield. His face has gone the color of old newspaper, sweat soaking through his shirt despite the cool air rolling off Puget Sound. He knows exactly who Marcus Reid is. Knows because 3 of the patents currently filed under Robert Brennan's name, the patents that got him promoted to VP of Engineering, the patents that tripled his salary, were designed by the man currently kneeling in front of a $75 million turbine with a manual calibration tool. Colonel Raymond Hayes pushes through the crowd with the unconscious authority of a man who spent 40 years making decisions that kept people alive at Mach 2. 67 years old, dress uniform decorated with medals that tell stories he'll never speak about in public. He stops 10 feet from Marcus, studies the movement patterns, the efficiency of motion, the way each adjustment flows into the next without hesitation or second guessing. His voice carries despite the rotor wash from departing helicopters. Ms. Ashford. Victoria turns, recognizes Hayes from board meetings where he says little but votes with devastating precision. Colonel. That movement signature. The approach to diagnostics. I've only seen one engineer work exactly like that. He doesn't lower his voice, doesn't care who hears. Marcus Reid, best aerospace mind of his generation. We were briefed he'd vanished from the industry. The murmuring intensifies. Engineers pull out phones, searching the name. The ones old enough to remember the Lockheed scandal exchange, looks that range from respect to fear. Marcus continues working, either oblivious to or unconcerned with his identity, spreading through the crowd like wildfire through dry brush. The manual calibration key turns with a precision that would make a watchmaker weep. Marcus's face shows complete concentration, the kind of focus that erases everything else. The crowd, the stakes, the clock reading 8:47. He's inside the problem now, existing in that space where metal and mathematics and intuition merge into something closer to art than engineering. A junior engineer breaks the silence. If the AI was wrong about this, what else is it wrong about? No one answers because the question opens doors everyone present has been carefully keeping closed. The entire diagnostic infrastructure of modern aviation rests on trusting algorithmic interpretation over human expertise. Marcus Reid is proving, in real time, that the Emperor has no clothes and never did. Victoria's phone buzzes. Text from her Tokyo contact. Chen is getting impatient. Needs confirmation your wheel's up in 6 hours, or he's walking. $240 million reduced to a text message and a countdown. She looks at Marcus, at the timer reading 7:12, at the engineers who cost her $10 million a year in salaries standing around like overpaid statues. Makes a calculation that has nothing to do with numbers. Brennan's assistant whispers urgently, "Sir, should I call security? He's not authorized." "Shut up." Brennan's voice comes out strangled. "Just shut up and let him work." The assistant blinks, confused by her boss's panic masquerading as resignation. Doesn't understand that Brennan is watching his entire career built on stolen designs potentially collapse because the man he helped bury is resurrecting himself with a $40 tool and 15 minutes. Marcus sits back on his heels, wipes his hands on a shop rag that's seen better decades, looks at the engine with the satisfied expression of a translator who's finally cracked a difficult passage. Clear the intake. Brennan's hand shakes, reaching for the master control tablet. His finger hovers over the ignition sequence button like a man about to pull a trigger he's not sure won't backfire. The digital readouts still show catastrophic failure. Every sensor screams that this engine is dead, but Marcus Reid says otherwise, and something in Brennan's guilty conscience makes him trust the man he betrayed over the machines he's hidden behind. He presses the button, 3 seconds of electric whine, high-pitched and fragile as hope. The senior engineer who mocked Marcus earlier starts to smile, vindication forming on his lips. Then a low growl erupts from the intake, building, deepening, transforming into a roar that shakes the tarmac and rattles the windows of the terminal 200 yards away. The sound is pure, clean, powerful. The sound of an engine that isn't just working, but singing. The digital displays flicker. Red warnings cascade to yellow cautions, then to green confirmations so fast the human eye can barely track the transition. Internal temperature stabilizes. Pressure readings normalize. Efficiency climbs. 97%, 98, 99.4, higher than the factory test bench ever recorded. The hangar falls silent except for the perfect thunder of the turbine. 18 engineers stare at their screens like the tablets have personally betrayed them. Tyler Preston has tears tracking down his face, though he'd never be able to explain exactly why. Colonel Hayes nods once, a gesture of recognition between people who understand what excellence actually looks like. Victoria stands motionless as the roar washes over her, wind from the intake stirring her severely pinned hair. She's staring at Marcus with an expression that might be wonder if she remembered how to feel that emotion. The janitor in the faded uniform just saved her company $38 million and a $250 million deal using pocket change and knowledge everyone present had decided was obsolete. Hayes steps forward, voice cutting through the engine noise with parade ground authority. That's Marcus Warren Reid. He's not asking. He's testifying. Lead engineer on the C-40 Clipper hydraulic retrofit. Filed the whistleblower report March 2017 that uncovered fatal flaws in the system. His report saved 450 Air Force pilots, including my entire squadron. His gaze sweeps the crowd, settling on each senior engineer with the weight of moral judgment. The industry blacklisted him for telling the truth that would have cost corporations $800 million in contract renegotiations. You've been watching a legend work, and you didn't even know his name. The words detonate like shaped charges through the gathering. Engineers pull up search results, faces going pale as they read. The Lockheed scandal, the congressional hearings, the quiet settlement, and the quieter burial of a man whose crime was being right when powerful people needed him to be wrong. Brennan tries to speak, his voice cracking. I supervised the diagnostic approach. The core methodology was... Hayes turns on him with the cold precision of a man trained to identify threats. Son, I've flown for 40 years and commanded wings where mistakes cost lives. I know when someone's lying to cover their own inadequacy. You couldn't supervise Marcus Reid on your best day with a manual and divine intervention. He pivots back to Victoria, and his voice drops to something quieter, more dangerous. You have the greatest aerospace engineer in the Western Hemisphere wearing a janitor's uniform and pushing a mop. What are you going to do about it? Before Victoria can respond, Marcus's phone erupts in his pocket. He pulls it out, and the color drains from his face. Answers without checking the caller ID because only one person has this number on emergency bypass. Lily? The voice that comes through is thin, frightened, young. Daddy, I'm at the emergency room. Mrs. Patterson called 911. My sugar won't come down, and I'm scared, and I can't remember if I took my insulin this morning, and... Baby, listen to me. Marcus is already moving, walking away from the engine, from the crowd, from everything. I'm coming right now. 10 minutes. You're going to be fine. Is a doctor with you? They're putting in an IV. It hurts, Daddy. I know, sweetheart. Be brave. I'm coming. He ends the call. Doesn't look at Victoria, doesn't acknowledge Hayes, doesn't care about the engine still purring behind him like vindication given mechanical form. Just walks toward the parking lot where his 15-year-old Civic waits with 200,000 miles and a check engine light he'll fix when he has time he'll never have. Victoria watches him go. Watches this man who just saved her empire treat it like an inconvenient interruption between him and his daughter. Something in her chest, something she'd thought her father's suicide had killed when she was 14, cracks just slightly. Hayes stands beside her, voice quiet enough only she can hear. You just publicly humiliated a man who could have let you fail, who had every reason to let you burn. Think about what that means. The crowd begins to disperse, engineers returning to tablets and theories, already constructing narratives that protect their competence. Tyler remains near the engine, running his hand along the housing Marcus touched, trying to understand through proximity what he couldn't grasp through education. Brennan stands frozen, watching Marcus's retreating back, his face a battlefield of guilt and terror, and something that might be shame if he had enough courage to name it. Victoria pulls out her phone, opens a browser, types Marcus Warren Reid Lockheed whistleblower. The search results paint a picture of institutional cruelty dressed up as professional consequence. A man who chose truth over career, who paid for his integrity with everything: job, reputation, wife's medical care, future. The articles from 2017 called him difficult, unstable, a disgruntled employee with an axe to grind. The technical analysis buried in congressional testimony 3 years later quietly confirmed every single thing he'd reported. She finds his employee file in Silverwing System, night shift custodian, hired August 2018, $17 an hour. Background check flagged, previous termination, do not place in sensitive areas. Someone in HR had seen MIT and Lockheed on his resume and assumed the janitorial application was a clerical error, never bothering to ask why a lead engineer was applying to clean toilets. Her phone buzzes again. Tokyo. She ignores it, scrolls further through Marcus's file until she finds the emergency contact. Lily Grace Reid, daughter, age 9. Medical notes flagged in the system. Type 1 diabetes, diagnosed 2022. Required accommodations, flexible schedule for medical appointments, access to refrigeration for insulin, understanding of emergency protocols. Victoria looks at Hayes. His daughter has diabetes. And his wife died of cancer while he was blacklisted and unemployed. Hayes's voice carries the weight of someone who's lost people, who understands the specific gravity of grief. Medical debt destroyed him. He took this job because it was the only one that didn't require references from an industry that wanted him erased. The engine continues its flawless operation, a mechanical testimony to expertise that couldn't be buried no matter how many people tried. Victoria stares at it, then at the parking lot where Marcus's Civic is disappearing into traffic, a father racing toward the only thing that matters more than vindication. She makes a decision that will either save her company or end her career. Turns to her assistant. Get me Seattle Children's Hospital on the line. Find out what room Lily Reid is in. And pull Marcus Warren Reid's full personnel file. I want everything, including the background check notes and whoever flagged him as a security risk. Hayes raises an eyebrow. What are you thinking? I'm thinking I just watched a man save me $38 million, and he treated it like an inconvenience because his daughter needed him. I'm thinking my father died because corporations chose profit over safety, and I built this company swearing I'd never be them. And I'm thinking I just became exactly what I hated. She looks at Brennan, still standing near the engine like a man at a funeral for his own credibility. Clear your afternoon. We're having a very long conversation about patents and attribution and the difference between supervision and theft. Brennan's face confirms everything she suspected. Hayes nods slowly, approval in the gesture. Tyler approaches, hesitant. Ms. Ashford? The raw data Mr. Reid referenced, should I preserve it for analysis? Preserve everything. And Tyler. She waits until he meets her eyes. When someone tells you to trust your ears over the algorithm, listen to them. They're teaching you something we forgot how to value. The Gulfstream's engine purrs in the background, a $60 million machine fixed with pocket change and knowledge that supposedly didn't matter anymore. Victoria stares at it, then at the empty space where Marcus Reid stood 30 seconds ago, then at the horizon where her entire understanding of competence and value and truth is being forcibly recalibrated. Her phone buzzes, Tokyo again. This time she answers. Chen, I'll be there. 8 hours. And when I arrive, I'm bringing a contract amendment you're going to want to see about safety protocols that will revolutionize the entire partnership. She ends the call, looks at Hayes. I need to find out who Marcus Warren Reid really is before I ask him to rebuild everything we think we know about engineering. Hayes's smile is small, knowing. You already know who he is. You watched him work. Now you just have to decide if you're brave enough to admit your entire infrastructure is built on a foundation of cowardice. The words hang in the salt air like a challenge. Victoria doesn't flinch. She built a billion-dollar company by making decisions other people were too afraid to make. This is just another one. Except this time, the stakes aren't measured in dollars, but in whether she has the courage to value truth over the comfortable lies that keep expensive engineers employed and liability lawyers happy. She walks toward her office, heels clicking on tarmac, mind already 3 moves ahead. Behind her, the engine Marcus fix continues to run flawlessly, a mechanical middle finger to every system that tried to declare him obsolete. Seattle Children's Hospital emergency entrance, late afternoon. Marcus abandons the Civic in a loading zone, sprints through automatic doors into the antiseptic fluorescent reality of crisis medicine. The intake nurse recognizes him. They've met 4 times this year, a familiarity neither of them wanted. Room 247. Dr. Patel is with her now. Lily lies in the pediatric bed looking impossibly small against white sheets, an IV line running into her left arm. Her skin has the waxy pallor of blood sugar that climbed too high for too long. But her eyes brighten when she sees him. Daddy! Marcus is beside her in 2 strides, taking her free hand with a gentleness that contradicts the panic still coursing through his veins. Hey, baby. I'm here. I'm here. My sugar was 340 and I got dizzy at school and Mrs. Patterson said I looked gray and I was so scared because I remembered what the doctor said about ketoacidosis and... The words tumble out in a rush that makes her monitors spike. Breathe, Lily. Slow breaths like we practiced. In through your nose. Out through your mouth. He demonstrates and she follows, her small chest rising and falling until the monitor settles. That's my girl. You did exactly right. You tested, you told an adult, you got help. You were so brave. A nurse enters with a tablet, her expression professionally neutral in that way healthcare workers perfect when delivering expensive news. Mr. Reid, Lily's stable now. We've got her on an insulin drip to bring the levels down gradually. We'll need to keep her overnight for observation, run a full metabolic panel, adjust her baseline dosing. Marcus nods, already doing math he can't afford. Of course, whatever she needs. The billing department will need to discuss payment arrangements, the ER visit, overnight monitoring, supplies. She glances at her tablet. We're looking at approximately $1,840 after your insurance deductible. His phone's banking app shows $230. Rent is due in 3 days. Lily's insulin prescription needs refilling in 5. The Civic needs an oil change that's already 2,000 miles overdue. He opens his mouth to ask about payment plans, about charity care applications, about selling plasma again, except he's already maxed out the monthly donation limit. Put it on my card. All 3 of them turn. Victoria Ashford stands in the doorway in her $3,000 suit, looking wildly out of place among the cartoon murals of smiling giraffes and encouraging rainbows. She holds out an American Express Centurion card, the black card that has no spending limit because people who carry it don't think in terms of limits. Marcus straightens, protective instinct overriding surprise. You don't need to... Yes, I do. Victoria hands the card to the nurse, who takes it like she's accepting a live grenade. Charge everything to that. And I want confirmation that Lily has access to the best pediatric endocrinologist in the Pacific Northwest. If Silverwing's insurance network doesn't cover them, I'll handle it personally. The nurse disappears with a card and an expression that suggests she's going to need to file an incident report about whatever is happening. Lily watches Victoria with the unnerving directness of a 9-year-old who hasn't learned to hide curiosity behind politeness. "Are you my daddy's boss?" Victoria moves closer to the bed, her heels clicking on linoleum. "I suppose I am, though after today, I'm not sure who's really in charge. Daddy fixed your airplane. He told me in the car. He said it was going to cost $38 million, but he fixed it with a $4,800 part." Lily's pride cuts through her exhaustion. My daddy's the smartest person in the whole world. Something crosses Victoria's face, not quite a smile, but adjacent to one. He certainly made 18 extremely expensive engineers look like they were guessing based on a manual they'd only skimmed. Marcus hasn't moved from Lily's bedside, his hand still holding hers, his body language making it clear Victoria's money doesn't buy her unlimited access to his daughter. "Why are you here?" "Because I was wrong." The words come out flat, factual, publicly and cruelly wrong. "My people humiliated you in front of 200 guests and I said nothing. You saved my company $38 million and a $250 million deal, and I would have let you walk away to scrub toilets if your daughter hadn't needed emergency care." Lily's eyes widen. "You were mean to my daddy?" "Very mean. Not with words, with silence, which is often worse." Victoria looks at Marcus, and her expression carries something that might be shame if she'd allow herself to feel it fully. "My father was an aviation mechanic, small regional airport. In 1995, a plane he'd just signed off on crashed during takeoff, faulty hydraulic seal. The supplier lied about specs to cut costs. My father's reputation was destroyed even though the failure wasn't his fault. He killed himself 6 months later. I was 14. The confession lands in the quiet room like a stone in still water. Lily's grip on Marcus's hand tightens. Marcus's expression shifts from defensive to something more complex. The specific recognition of one survivor of institutional cruelty identifying another. Victoria continues, her voice carrying an edge that wasn't there before. "I built Silver Wing swearing I'd never be like those corporations that chose profit over people. But tonight, I let my engineers mock you. I didn't defend truth when it was standing right in front of me in a custodial uniform. I became exactly what killed my father." Lily studies Victoria with the intensity of someone still young enough to believe people can be categorized into simple moral boxes. "Daddy says people who realize they were wrong and say sorry are braver than people who were right all along." Marcus meets Victoria's eyes over his daughter's head. Something passes between them, an acknowledgement that life breaks people in similar ways regardless of bank account size. "You didn't have to come here, or pay the bill. You could have just offered me the job Monday morning and pretended tonight didn't happen." "I could have, but I needed to see." Victoria gestures vaguely at the room, the IV stand, the medical equipment that's keeping Lily stable. "Needed to understand what you're choosing every day. Why a man with your expertise pushes a mop instead of what? Designing turbines for companies that'll bury me the second I'm inconvenient?" The bitterness in Marcus's voice is 7 years old and still sharp. "I had that career. It killed my wife and destroyed my savings, and taught me that truth is worth exactly nothing when it costs the right people money." Lily's voice cuts through the adult tension with the clarity of someone who's heard this argument before, in different forms. "Daddy, she has sad eyes like you. like people who lost someone they loved. The observation stops both adults cold. Victoria looks at Lily with something approaching wonder, as if seeing clearly for the first time tonight. Marcus's defensive posture softens incrementally, recognizing that his daughter has identified the fundamental similarity he's been too angry to acknowledge. The nurse returns with Victoria's card and a receipt that probably cost more than Marcus makes in 2 weeks. All set, Mr. Reid. And I've scheduled a follow-up with Dr. Sarah Chen, pediatric endocrinology. She's the best in the region. Victoria nods thanks, then turns back to Marcus. I'm not asking you to trust me. I haven't earned that. But I'm asking you to meet me tomorrow morning. My office. Bring Lily if you need to. I'll have HR set up a space with activities appropriate for a 9-year-old genius who draws blueprints in her spare time. Marcus blinks. How did you know? I pulled your employee file. Emergency contacts, medical accommodations, background check notes. Someone in HR flagged you as a potential security risk because you have MIT and Lockheed on your resume but applied for custodial work. They assumed it was a clerical error rather than evidence of an industry that destroys people for being honest. The precision of her research should feel invasive, but Marcus recognizes it for what it is. Victoria doing exactly what he would do, gathering information before making decisions that affect lives. What do you want from me? I want to offer you chief engineer, $320,000 a year, full medical coverage for both of you, specialists, unlimited insulin, whatever Lily needs, equity stake in the company. You rebuild our entire safety division from the ground up. Victoria pauses. But I'm guessing you have conditions. 3 of them. Marcus's voice is steady despite the surreal nature of negotiating a job offer in his daughter's hospital room. 1. Complete technical independence. My word is final on any safety issue. No board overrides, no corporate pressure, no executives asking me to sign something I know is dangerous. If I say a plane doesn't fly, it doesn't fly. Victoria nods. Agreed. 2. I leave every day at 2:45 to pick Lily up from school. 0 exceptions. No meetings, no emergencies, nothing. I'm not missing another school pickup, another recital, another moment because some executive thinks their time is worth more than my daughter's security. Agreed. It'll be in your contract. First paragraph, bold text. 3. You establish a written policy that no engineer at Silverwing is ever punished, demoted, or blacklisted for reporting safety concerns. Ever. I don't care if it costs you contracts or pisses off the board or makes the lawyers nervous. Truth cannot be a fireable offense. This one makes Victoria pause, not because she disagrees, but because it's the ask that will cost her the most political capital. That will require board approval. They'll fight it. Then I'm not interested. Marcus's tone is final. I won't work somewhere that'll do to someone else what Lockheed did to me. I won't be part of a system that values comfort over lives. Lily squeezes her father's hand. Daddy's really stubborn when he thinks he's right, and he's usually right. Victoria's lips quirk in something almost approaching a smile. I'm noticing that. She pulls out her phone, types rapidly. I'm sending an email to our board chair right now. Emergency meeting Monday morning. If they won't agree to whistleblower protections, I'll resign and start a competing firm that will. I'm betting they'd rather keep me and accept the policy than lose 40% of our contracts when I walk. Marcus studies her, trying to reconcile the Ice Queen CEO from the gala with this woman threatening her own board in a pediatric hospital room. You'd actually walk away from Silverwing over this? My father died because corporations chose profit over safety. I've spent 20 years telling myself I built something different, something better. Tonight proved I was lying. So, yes, I'll walk if that's what it takes to prove I'm serious about being who I claim to be all along. The commitment in her voice carries the weight of someone who's made harder decisions and lived to regret the easier paths not taken. Marcus recognizes it because he's carried that same weight since the day he walked out of Lockheed with his integrity intact and his future in ruins. I need the weekend to think about it. The words come carefully. This isn't just about the job. It's about whether I trust you won't do to me what everyone else has done. Whether I risk my daughter's stability on someone else's promise. Victoria doesn't argue, doesn't try to sell him harder, just nods. Fair? Take the weekend. But Marcus, I mean every word, and I'll prove it whether you take the job or not. That whistleblower policy is getting written either way, because you've shown me what cowardice looks like, and I don't want to see it in the mirror anymore. She leaves without ceremony, heels clicking down the corridor until the sound fades into the general hospital noise. Lily waits until she's definitely gone before speaking. I like her, Daddy. She's sad like you, but she's trying not to be mean about it. Marcus smooths his daughter's hair, careful not to disturb the IV line. You're a very weird kid. You know that? Mommy always said weird just means interesting that people don't understand yet. Lily's eyes are already closing, exhaustion and medication pulling her towards sleep. Do you think Mommy would like Miss Victoria? The question hits harder than it should. Marcus thinks about Caroline, about her final words in a hospital bed not unlike this one. Protect truth. Protect Lily. Teach her that integrity is everything they can't take. Yeah, baby. I think Mommy would have liked her. They both fight for things, even when it's hard. Lily's breathing evens out into sleep. Marcus sits in the uncomfortable chair next to her bed, still holding her hand, mind racing through possibilities and risks. His phone buzzes. Text from an unknown number. This is Tyler Preston, junior engineer. Mr. Reid, I wanted to say thank you for today, for showing me what engineering actually looks like. I've been at Silverwing 2 years, and I was starting to think the job was just making computers happy instead of solving real problems. You reminded me why I went into this field. Also, I pulled some historical data on turbine failures, found 3 other cases in our fleet that match the pattern you identified today. If the offer Ms. Ashford mentioned is real, I hope you take it. We need someone who actually knows what they're doing. Marcus reads the message twice, then types back, "Trust your instincts over the algorithms. You're already a better engineer than most people with 20 years' experience." He leans back in the chair that will destroy his spine by morning, watches his daughter sleep with the resilience of someone 9 years old who doesn't yet know how cruel the world can be to people who tell inconvenient truths. His mind drifts to the Gulfstream's engine, to the way 18 engineers with 7-figure educations had been completely, expensively wrong. To Victoria's face when she realized she'd been humiliating someone who could have saved her empire if she'd bothered to look past his uniform. $320,000 a year would mean Lily's insulin without rationing, would mean specialists instead of emergency rooms, would mean stability, security, the ability to think about something other than which bill to pay late this month. But it would also mean walking back into the industry that destroyed him, trusting people who've proven themselves untrustworthy, risking everything on a CEO's promise made in the emotional aftermath of crisis. His phone buzzes again, This time it's a number he recognizes, Brennan. The message preview is visible enough to read, "Marcus, we need to talk. About the patents, about what happened in 2017. I owe you." He deletes it without reading further. Some conversations aren't worth having. Some apologies come too late to matter. Brennan helped blacklist him, stayed silent when speaking up might have saved Caroline, built a career on stolen designs while Marcus pushed mops to afford his daughter's insulin. Whatever Brennan owes, it can't be repaid with words typed into a phone at midnight. The night shift nurse checks in, adjusts Lily's IV, makes notes on her chart. "She's doing great, Mr. Reid. Sugar's down to 180 and trending stable. Doctor will probably discharge her late morning if the blood work looks good. Thank you." He means it for more than just the medical care, means it for the neutral professionalism that doesn't judge why a 9-year-old's father is wearing a janitor's uniform in a hospital room, doesn't ask why the bill got paid with a black card that appeared out of nowhere. When the nurse leaves, Marcus pulls out his wallet. Inside, tucked behind his driver's license and Lily's school photo, is a picture from 2016. Caroline, 8 months pregnant, glowing despite the cancer treatments that would intensify after Lily's birth. She's standing in front of Marcus's Lockheed office, hand on her belly, smiling at the camera with the kind of hope that only exists before the world teaches you better. He'd taken that photo the day before he discovered the hydraulic flaw, before he filed the report that would destroy everything. Sometimes he wonders what would have happened if he'd just signed the approval, taken his paycheck, let 450 pilots risk their lives on a system he knew was flawed. Caroline might still be alive. The health insurance would have covered her treatments. The experimental trial that required $200,000 up front. The specialists who turned her away when they learned Marcus was unemployed and uninsured. But she wouldn't have wanted to live that way. Wouldn't have wanted him to be the kind of man who chose her life over 450 strangers, who valued comfort over integrity. Her last words weren't about money or treatment or regret. They were about protecting truth, about teaching Lily that some things matter more than survival. Marcus slides the photo back into his wallet, looks at his daughter sleeping peacefully now, monitors steady, crisis past for another night, makes a decision that honors Carolyn's memory more than any amount of grief ever could. He pulls out his phone, finds Victoria's number in his recent call log, types, "I'll meet you Monday morning, 9 a.m. But I'm bringing Lily, and if your HR team has a problem with that, we're done before we start. Also, that board meeting better result in the whistleblower policy, or we have nothing to discuss." The reply comes back in under 30 seconds. 9 a.m. works. Lily is welcome. I'll have activities set up, and my assistant will make sure there's kid-friendly food options. Board meeting is scheduled for 8 a.m. You'll have your policy in writing before we talk terms. He reads the message 3 times, looking for the catch, for the corporate doublespeak that means something different than what it says. Doesn't find it. Either Victoria Ashford is genuinely committed to change, or she's the best liar Marcus has encountered in an industry built on comfortable deceptions. His phone buzzes again. Different number, this time identified. Colonel Raymond Hayes. "Mr. Reid, I wanted to reach out personally. I flew with men who died because engineers were too afraid to tell the truth about design flaws. Your report in 2017 saved lives, including people I served with for 20 years. The industry treated you shamefully. If Victoria Ashford is serious about making this right, I'll personally ensure the board understands what's at stake. And if you need a reference who'll testify to your character and competence, you have mine." Some of us remember what honor looks like. Marcus reads the message until his vision blurs slightly. He spent 7 years invisible, erased, treated like his expertise and his sacrifice meant nothing to anyone. Now in the space of 12 hours, he's gotten validation from a CEO, a junior engineer finding his courage, and a retired Air Force colonel who understands that truth has a cost worth paying. He types back, "Thank you, sir. That means more than you know." Hayes responds immediately, "No thanks necessary. I'm just tired of watching good people get destroyed for doing the right thing." See you Monday. I'll be at that board meeting, making sure they understand what they're actually voting on. The night stretches on. Monitors beep their steady reassurance. Lily sleeps with the peace of someone 9 years old who still believes her father can fix anything, even when the world keeps proving that some things stay broken no matter how skilled your hands. Marcus drifts in the uncomfortable chair, not quite sleeping, not quite awake, existing in that liminal space where the past 7 years feel both endless and impossibly brief. Somewhere across Seattle, Victoria Ashford sits in her downtown penthouse, staring at financial projections that don't account for the moral recalibration happening in her chest. The numbers say hiring Marcus Reid at $320,000 is defensible, that the publicity of bringing back a legendary engineer will offset any board resistance. But the numbers don't capture the risk of trusting someone you've wronged, don't measure the cost of looking in the mirror and seeing your father's failures reflected in your own choices. She opens her laptop, begins drafting the whistleblower protection policy herself rather than delegating to legal, because this needs to be written by someone who understands what it's preventing. The language comes easily once she stops thinking like a CEO protecting liability and starts thinking like the 14-year-old girl who lost her father to corporate cowardice. Section 1. No employee of Silver Wing Aviation shall be terminated, demoted, reassigned, or professionally disadvantaged in any form for reporting safety concerns, design flaws, or regulatory violations through proper channels. Section 2. Any retaliation, direct or indirect, against employees exercising their duty to report safety issues will result in immediate termination of the retaliating party, regardless of position or seniority. Section 3. Anonymous reporting mechanisms shall be established and protected with independent oversight to ensure concerns are investigated without bias or corporate pressure. She keeps writing until sunrise paints Puget Sound gold and pink, until the policy is ironclad enough that no future CEO can quietly ignore it. No board can vote it away when it becomes inconvenient. When she finishes, she sends it to every board member with a subject line that makes her position clear. Vote Monday. Non-negotiable. Choose wisely. Then she opens a new email to her Tokyo contact. Chen. Deal is proceeding with an addition you'll want to see. We're implementing the most comprehensive safety whistleblower protections in aerospace. We'll revolutionize industry standards and make both our companies safer. If you're interested in being part of that shift rather than fighting it, we should talk about expanding the partnership scope. She hits send before she can second-guess the strategy of using a $250 million deal to force industry change. Either Chen values actual safety over performative compliance, or he'll walk and she'll find partners who do. Either way, she's done building her father's prison with better furniture. Her assistant's morning check-in email arrives at 7. Board members responding to your message. Brennan requested emergency meeting before official board session. Hayes confirmed attendance and sent supporting documentation you should see. Victoria opens Hayes's attachment, a declassified summary of the 2017 congressional testimony regarding Marcus Reid's whistleblower report. The technical analysis confirms every single concern Marcus raised. The casualty projections show 450 to 680 potential deaths prevented by the design changes his report forced. The industry response section details how Lockheed and 3 other major contractors coordinated to ensure Marcus never worked in aerospace again, treating his accuracy as a greater threat than their negligence. She reads it twice, rage building in her chest with the slow heat of long-delayed recognition. They didn't blacklist Marcus for being wrong. They blacklisted him for being right in a way that cost them money and exposed their willingness to trade lives for quarterly earnings. And she'd hired those same institutional priorities, dressed them up in progressive corporate language, convinced herself she was different while perpetuating the exact same system. Her phone rings, Brennan, early and panicked. She lets it go to voicemail. Whatever he wants to confess or justify can wait until he's facing the entire board, until his comfort matters less than the truth he's been avoiding. She's done with private accommodations that let people save face while burying their sins. Monday morning will reckon with all of it. The board meeting that decides whether Silverwing values safety over convenience. The conversation with Marcus that determines whether redemption is actually possible or just another corporate performance. For now, Victoria watches the sunrise over a city that doesn't care about her moral crisis, that will keep building planes and making deals regardless of whether she finds the courage her father couldn't. She thinks about Marcus sitting in a hospital room, holding his daughter's hand, choosing to trust one more time despite every lesson life has taught him about the cost of that choice. Wonders if courage is genetic or learned, whether she inherited her father's weakness or his potential for strength before the world broke it. Either way, Monday will tell her which version of herself she's actually built beneath the expensive suits and corner office. Whether she's a CEO who can admit she was wrong, or just another executive who talks about values while protecting the systems that destroy people who live them. Monday morning arrives with Seattle's typical gray drizzle, the kind that isn't quite rain but soaks through optimism given enough time. Marcus stands outside Silverwing's glass headquarters at 8:55 a.m., Lily's hand in his, both of them dressed in the best they own. His one interview suit from 2017, slightly too loose now. Her school uniform because it's the only thing without stains or patches. Lily clutches her backpack containing 3 mechanical pencils, her sketchbook, and a breakfast bar she insisted on bringing in case the fancy building doesn't have food she can eat. Through the lobby windows, Marcus can see executives arriving for the emergency board meeting, men and women in suits that cost more than his monthly rent. Colonel Hayes in dress uniform. Brennan looking like he slept in his car and regretted waking up. Victoria at the center of it all, orchestrating something that will either change everything or confirm that some institutions are too broken to fix. Daddy, your hand is squeezing too tight. Marcus releases Lily's hand immediately, embarrassed by his own anxiety manifesting as inadvertent pressure. Sorry, baby, just thinking. Are you scared? She asks it with the directness of 9 years old. No judgment, just curiosity. Terrified. Mommy used to say brave people are scared too. They just do the hard thing anyway. Lily looks up at him with Caroline's eyes, with a wisdom that shouldn't fit in someone barely tall enough for the adult drinking fountains. You're doing the hard thing. That makes you brave. Marcus kneels to her level, not caring about the damp pavement soaking through his slacks. What if I fail? What if I trust them, and they do to me what Lockheed did? Then we'll figure it out together, like we always do. She touches his cheek with the unself-conscious affection of a child who hasn't learned that public displays of emotion are socially complicated. But Daddy, you taught me that staying scared forever isn't protecting yourself. It's just living smaller than you're supposed to be. The observation lands with uncomfortable accuracy. Marcus has spent 7 years making himself invisible, convincing himself that survival through anonymity was somehow noble. But Lily's right. It's not protection. It's prison. Just one he built himself with better intentions than the industry that first locked him out. He stands, takes her hand properly this time. Okay, let's go see if redemption is real or just another thing rich people talk about without meaning. The lobby is aggressively modern, all white marble and reclaimed wood, a receptionist behind a desk that probably cost more than Marcus's Civic. She looks up as they approach, professional smile already forming, then faltering slightly as she takes in Marcus's off-the-rack suit and Lily's elementary school uniform. Good morning. Do you have an appointment? Marcus Reid, 9 a.m. with Victoria Ashford. The receptionist's fingers fly across her keyboard, expression shifting from polite dismissal to surprise. Oh, Mr. Reid. Yes, Miss Ashford left very specific instructions. Please follow me. I'll take you to the executive level. She leads them to an elevator that requires a key card to access the top floors. The ride is silent except for the soft jazz playing through hidden speakers and Lily humming along because she has perfect pitch and can't help herself. The receptionist glances at her with the expression of someone who deals with executives' children occasionally, but wasn't expecting one here on a Monday morning emergency board meeting. They exit on the 10th floor into a waiting area that looks like an architecture magazine spread. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlook Puget Sound and the Olympic Mountains beyond. A small conference room off to the side has been transformed. Table pushed aside, beanbags arranged near the window, a tablet loaded with educational games, and a selection of snacks that suggests someone actually researched what 9-year-olds eat. Victoria's assistant appears, younger than Marcus expected, efficiently friendly. Mr. Reid, Lily, I'm Sarah Chen. Ms. Ashford is in the board meeting, but asked me to get you both settled. Lily, this room is all yours. There's drawing supplies, brain teasers, and I made sure the snacks are all diabetes friendly, with carb counts labeled. Lily's eyes widen at the setup, the kind of pure childhood delight that makes Marcus's chest ache because she's so rarely gotten to feel casually valued. This is for me, all for you. Ms. Ashford wanted you to be comfortable. And Mr. Reid, there's coffee in the executive lounge, and the meeting should wrap by 9:30. It's running a bit long. Through the walls, Marcus can hear raised voices, not shouting, but the kind of controlled conflict that happens when powerful people disagree in expensive conference rooms. He recognizes Brennan's voice, higher and more defensive than the others. Hayes's military baritone cutting through with the precision of someone accustomed to being obeyed. Sarah notices his attention. It's been intense since 8. 3 board members walked in prepared to kill the whistleblower policy. Colonel Hayes brought documentation that changed some minds. Mr. Brennan is currently explaining some discrepancies in patent attribution dating back to 2018. Marcus processes this. Victoria didn't just propose the policy. She's weaponizing Brennan's theft to force board compliance, using corporate self-interest against itself, making it more expensive to vote no than to accept change. It's ruthless and strategic and exactly the kind of play Carolyn would have appreciated for its elegant brutality. The conference room door opens. A board member emerges, older man in his 70s, face red with either anger or embarrassment. He doesn't acknowledge Marcus, just storms toward the elevators, muttering about liabilities and overreach. Hayes follows, spots Marcus, and approaches with a nod that carries more respect than Marcus has received from anyone in 7 years. "Mr. Reid, glad you came." "Colonel, I heard it's been eventful." That's diplomatic phrasing for a bloodbath. Hayes's smile is grim. 3 members tried to argue that whistleblower protections would expose the company to frivolous complaints and regulatory scrutiny. I introduced them to the congressional testimony from your case, made it clear that regulatory scrutiny is code for being held accountable when we cut corners that kill people. They didn't enjoy the translation. Through the open door, Marcus can see Victoria at the head of the table, Brennan to her right, looking like he's attending his own funeral. The remaining board members are reviewing documents, their body language suggesting reluctant capitulation. Brennan confessed. Hayes's voice drops lower, meant only for Marcus. About the patents, the blacklist coordination, his role in making sure you stayed unemployable. He's resigning effective immediately, transferring all patent credits back to you, and accepting a junior engineering position under your supervision if you choose to let him stay. The information hits Marcus in waves. Vindication feels different than he imagined, less triumphant, more exhausting. He's staying? Why would he? Because you said people deserve second chances if they own their mistakes. Victoria decided to test whether you meant it. Hayes studies Marcus's reaction. The board was prepared to fire him immediately, pursue legal action, make an example. She argued for your approach, redemption through accountability rather than destruction. Told them if they couldn't accept that philosophy, she'd walk and take enough IP to cripple the company. Marcus thinks about Brennan, about the junior engineer who used to ask good questions and showed promise before corporate incentives taught him to value advancement over integrity. About how easy it would be to demand his complete ruin, how satisfying it might feel for approximately 30 seconds before the hollowness set in. If he stays, he works on the safety team, reports directly to me, and the first time he hides a problem or pressures someone to sign off on something questionable, he's gone. Hayes nods approval. I'll make sure Victoria knows your conditions. The board is voting now. Should have results in 5 minutes. He returns to the conference room. Lily appears at Marcus's elbow, having absorbed the executive lounge like a small, perceptive sponge. That's the man from your phone messages. The colonel who said you saved his squadron. Yeah, baby, that's him. He looks at you the way Coach Williams looks at the kids who actually try hard in gym class. Like he's proud even though he doesn't have to be. She pauses, processing adult dynamics with uncomfortable clarity. Are they deciding if you get to work here? They're deciding if they're the kind of company that deserves someone like me working here. There's a difference. The conference room door opens again. This time it's Victoria, her expression carefully neutral in the way of someone who's just won a battle that cost more political capital than she'd prefer. She spots Marcus and Lily, approaches with the measured steps of someone aware she's being evaluated. Mr. Reid, Lily. She kneels to Lily's level, which surprises Marcus because executives generally don't ruin expensive suit pants for symbolic gestures. Thank you for being patient. I know board meetings are boring even when they're deciding important things. Lily studies her with unnerving directness. My daddy says you're trying to make your company not be like the place that was mean to him. Is that true? Victoria doesn't flinch from the child's interrogation. Yes, I'm trying. Trying isn't the same as succeeding, but it's better than not trying at all. Mommy used to say that, before she died. Lily says it matter-of-factly, the way kids do when grief is so familiar, it's just another biographical detail. She said trying and failing is braver than not trying because you're scared. Something crosses Victoria's face, recognition of wisdom that shouldn't come from someone 9 years old, shouldn't be necessary in a world that protected children better. Your mommy sounds like she was very smart. She was. Daddy says I'm like her. Lily glances at Marcus, checking if this conversation is okay, if she's revealing too much to someone who might still be the enemy. Marcus gives a small nod. Victoria stands, returning her attention to him. The board voted 8-1 in favor of the whistleblower protection policy. It's being drafted into company bylaws right now with language strong enough that no future board can quietly remove it. Anonymous reporting mechanisms, independent oversight, zero tolerance for retaliation, everything you asked for. And Brennan? Resigned from VP position, transferred patent credits. All 3 designs are now properly attributed to you with backdating to the original filing dates. Royalties will be calculated and paid out. He's requested to stay as junior engineer under your supervision if you'll accept him. The board left that decision to you. Marcus absorbs this. 7 years of stolen credit returned in a board vote. Financial compensation that won't erase the past but might ease the future. And the man who betrayed him asking for mercy, Marcus isn't sure he has the grace to extend. I need to talk to him, privately. Victoria nods, unsurprised. Conference room 2 is empty. I'll send him in. She looks at Lily. Would you like to see the engineering labs while your dad has his meeting? We have some demonstration turbines and a 3D printer that makes prototype parts. Lily's eyes light up with the specific enthusiasm of someone who draws blueprints for fun. Really? Really. Sarah will take you. She used to be an engineer before she decided she preferred organizing people over organizing systems. As Sarah leads Lily away, chattering about the 3D printer's capabilities, Marcus is left alone in the antiseptic perfection of the executive waiting area. 5 minutes later, Brennan enters conference room 2 looking like he's aged a decade since Friday. His suit is wrinkled, his eyes carry the specific exhaustion of someone who hasn't slept because their conscience finally decided to show up for work. They sit across from each other at a table designed for negotiations that usually involve more money and less raw emotion. Brennan speaks first, voice hoarse. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even know if I deserve the chance to apologize. But Marcus, I need you to know that I've lived with what I did every single day since 2017. Every patent approval, every promotion, every time someone called me an expert on systems you designed. Marcus doesn't make it easier for him, just waits, lets the silence do the work that words can't. When corporate asked me to testify against you, to support the narrative that you were unstable and vindictive, I was terrified. Terrified of being blacklisted alongside you, terrified of losing my career before it really started. So I lied. Told them you were difficult to work with, that your findings were questionable, that the whistleblower report was more about personal vendetta than legitimate safety concerns. Brennan's hands shake slightly. I knew you were right. I'd seen the data. But I chose my comfort over 450 lives and your reputation. Caroline died 3 months after I was blacklisted. Marcus's voice is flat, factual. We couldn't afford her cancer treatments without insurance. The experimental trial that might have saved her required $200,000 up front. Money we would have had if I'd stayed employed. So when you chose your comfort, you chose my wife's death. I want you to understand that clearly. Brennan's face crumples. I know. God, Marcus, I know. I've known since I saw her obituary and did the timeline math. I've carried that for 7 years, and it still doesn't compare to what you've carried. So why ask to stay? Why not just disappear like you helped make me disappear? Because disappearing is what cowards do, and I'm trying to stop being one. Brennan meets his eyes for the first time, and there's something genuine in the wreckage of his expression. Victoria gave me an option I didn't deserve. Work under you. Take orders from the man I betrayed. Spend however many years it takes proving I can value truth over career advancement. It's humiliating and uncomfortable, and exactly what I need to do if I'm ever going to be able to look at myself without shame. Marcus thinks about Caroline's last words, about teaching Lily that integrity matters more than survival, about the difference between justice and vengeance, between accountability and cruelty. Thinks about the junior engineer Brennan used to be before corporate incentives corrupted him, and whether that person is recoverable or permanently lost. You stay. Junior engineer on the safety team, reporting directly to me. Your job is to find problems everyone else wants to hide and bring them to me without sugarcoating or justifying or protecting anyone's comfort. The first time you fail to do that, the first time you choose politics over safety, you're gone, and I'll make sure the industry knows exactly why. Brennan nods, acceptance and relief, and continued shame mixing in his expression. Thank you. I'll spend the rest of my career earning the trust I destroyed. Don't thank me. This isn't mercy. It's probation. And Brennan? Marcus pauses. The patents you're transferring back, the royalties, half goes to Caroline Reid Memorial Foundation. I'm establishing it to help families with medical debt from terminal illness. You're going to help me administer it, which means you're going to meet people whose lives were destroyed the way mine was. And you're going to sit with that discomfort until it teaches you something. The addition clearly wasn't expected. Brennan's eyes water. Okay, yes, whatever you need. I don't need your guilt. I need your competence channeled toward preventing the kind of institutional cowardice that created this situation in the first place. Can you do that? I'll try, every day, for as long as it takes. Marcus stands, signaling the conversation is over. Then we start tomorrow, 8 a.m. Wear something you don't mind getting dirty. Safety engineers work in hangars, not conference rooms. He leaves Brennan sitting at the table, processing what redemption through accountability actually requires. Finds Victoria in her office, Lily in the corner sketching something on the massive whiteboard that probably usually holds quarterly projections. Lily's designing improvements to our turbine cooling system. Victoria's voice carries a note of amusement. She's identified 2 efficiency gains our engineering team missed. I'm having them review her math. Lily doesn't look up from her drawing, lost in the flow state Marcus recognizes from his own best work. The bypass valve should have a secondary sensor that accounts for environmental variables. It's obvious if you think about the metal as a living system instead of a fixed component. Marcus stares at his daughter, at the complexity of her diagram, at the way she's casually revolutionizing a system that stumped 18 engineers on Friday. Pride and terror war in his chest because she's brilliant and the world destroys brilliant people who refuse to compromise. Victoria stands, moves to stand beside him. I told Brennan he could stay under your conditions. I know. He'll either become a better engineer than he was, or he'll self-destruct trying. Either way, we'll know if redemption works better than destruction. And the job? Chief engineer, 320 base, full medical, equity stake, whistleblower policy in writing. She pulls a contract from her desk, pages already flagged for signature. Everything we discussed. Your hours are 8 to 2:45, no exceptions. Technical authority is absolute. Lily has access to on-site care if she needs it, pediatric endocrinology on speed dial, insulin and supplies in 3 locations throughout the building. Marcus reads the contract slowly, looking for the trap, the corporate loophole that makes promises conditional on convenience. Doesn't find it. Either Victoria's legal team is better at hiding deception than he is at finding it, or she actually means every word. There's an addition. Victoria hands him a second document. Caroline Reid Memorial Safety Fellowship, $5 million endowment, funded by Silverwing and matching contributions from partners. Scholarships for engineering students who demonstrate commitment to ethical practice. Grants for whistleblowers facing financial hardship. And a research arm investigating how corporate structures can be redesigned to reward truth-telling instead of punishing it. The document swims slightly in Marcus's vision. He blinks hard, refusing to cry in a CEO's office on a Monday morning while his daughter draws revolutionary turbine designs 10 feet away. This wasn't part of our negotiation. No, it's part of my negotiation with myself. The person I claim to be versus the person I've actually been. Victoria's voice softens incrementally. Your wife died because an industry chose profit over principle. My father died because corporate negligence destroyed his reputation. We can't bring them back, but we can make their deaths mean something by building systems that prevent the same thing from happening to the next engineer who chooses truth over comfort. Marcus looks at Caroline's name on the fellowship documents, imagines her reading this in whatever form consciousness takes after death, hopes she'd approve of turning her absence into something that protects others from the same systemic cruelty. She would have liked this, the foundation. She always said suffering was only wasted if you didn't learn from it. Then help me learn. Help me build a company that actually lives its values instead of just printing them on motivational posters. Victoria extends her hand, and the gesture carries more weight than any contract. Please. Lily looks up from her whiteboard diagram. Daddy, are you going to sign it? Because I want to keep coming here. They have really good dry erase markers, and Miss Victoria understands that cooling systems need to breathe. The observation breaks the tension. Marcus laughs, actual laughter, surprised out of him by his daughter's ability to reduce complex moral decisions to marker quality and engineering philosophy. He takes Victoria's hand, shakes it with the firm grip his own father taught him decades ago when handshakes still meant something. I'll sign, but we're doing this my way. Safety over speed, truth over convenience, people over quarterly earnings. The first time someone asks me to compromise those principles, I walk and I take the whistleblower policy precedent to every competitor and regulatory body that will listen. I wouldn't expect anything less. Victoria's smile is small but genuine. Welcome to Silverwing, Chief Reid. Try not to make me regret proving that corporations can actually change. Marcus signs the contract with a pen that probably costs more than his weekly grocery budget, each signature feeling like a small betrayal of the cynicism that's protected him for 7 years. But Lily is watching with unguarded hope, and Carolyn's name is on a fellowship that will help people she'll never meet. And maybe, just maybe, some institutions are salvageable if the right people care enough to do the uncomfortable work. The rest of Monday passes in a blur of HR paperwork, facility tours, Introductions to engineering teams who look at Marcus with expressions ranging from awed skepticism to poorly hidden resentment. Tyler Preston pumps his hand with the enthusiasm of someone who's finally found a mentor worth learning from. The senior engineers who mocked him Friday maintain professional distance, their discomfort palpable and entirely appropriate. At 2:45 exactly, Marcus logs out of his new computer, ignores the meeting request that just appeared in his calendar for 3 p.m., and collects Lily from the engineering lab where she's been reverse engineering a turbine component with 2 junior engineers who keep looking at her like she's a small, terrifying prophet. "Daddy, can I come back tomorrow? They said I can help with the prototype testing if you say it's okay." "We'll see, baby. You still have school." "School is boring. They're teaching long division, and I'm designing thermodynamic systems." Marcus can't argue with her math, literally or figuratively. They walk to the Civic, still the same battered vehicle that's carried them through 7 years of poverty, but now heading toward a future that includes insulin without rationing and specialists instead of emergency rooms. As he starts the engine, his phone buzzes. Text from Victoria. "Board member who voted against the policy resigned this afternoon. Couldn't stomach being part of a company that prioritizes safety over shareholder comfort. His replacement will be announced Friday. I'm nominating Colonel Hayes. Figured you'd want to know that the people making decisions about your work actually understand what integrity costs." Marcus reads the message twice, then shows it to Lily. "What do you think, baby? Did we make the right choice?" She considers this with the seriousness she applies to engineering problems. "Mommy used to say you can't know if a choice was right until you see what you build with it. So ask me in a year after we've built something." Wisdom from a 9-year-old channeling her dead mother's philosophy. Marcus pulls out of the parking garage into Seattle's persistent drizzle, heading toward a future he's not entirely sure he trusts but is choosing to build anyway, because Lily's right. You can't know if a choice was right until you see what you build with it. And for the first time in 7 years, Marcus has the resources and the platform to build something that might actually matter. 3 days before the International Aviation Expo, Marcus stands in Silverwing's main hangar reviewing the demonstration turbine that will either validate everything he's claimed or destroy his credibility in front of 8,000 industry professionals. The component sits on a hydraulic platform under stadium lighting, gleaming and complex, a $60 million argument that expertise matters more than credentials. Tyler and 2 other junior engineers hover nearby, triple-checking connections that Marcus already verified twice because catastrophic failure on a global stage tends to motivate thoroughness. His phone rings. Seattle Children's Hospital. The number he's memorized from too many emergencies. The one that never brings good news. "Mr. Reid, this is Dr. Patel. Lily collapsed during gym class. She's being transported by ambulance. Blood sugar over 520, showing signs of ketoacidosis. We need you here immediately." The wrench in Marcus's hand clatters to the concrete floor. 520 milligrams per deciliter. The number that means cells are starving while glucose floods her bloodstream. That means her body is eating itself because insulin isn't doing its job. That means the demo and the expo and all of it matters exactly 0 compared to his daughter fighting for metabolic stability. 10 minutes. He's already running toward the parking lot. Doesn't care about the half-assembled turbine or the schedule or anything except the fact that Lily is in an ambulance and he's not there. Tyler calls after him. "Mr. Reid, the calibration." "Finish it yourself. You know the specs." Marcus doesn't slow down, doesn't look back. "And if anyone asks why I left, Tell them my daughter is more important than their airplane. The Civic's engine turns over on the third try, a delay that costs precious seconds, while Marcus's imagination supplies every terrible possibility. He floors it out of the parking lot, breaking enough traffic laws to justify arrest, but not enough to actually get pulled over. The kind of controlled recklessness that comes from emergency room visits, teaching him exactly how fast he can drive before luck runs out. Seattle Children's Hospital, ICU entrance. Marcus sprints through doors that open too slowly. His badge from the previous visit still working to bypass normal check-in procedures. A nurse he recognizes points him toward room 7 without him having to ask. Lily lies on a gurney looking impossibly small against white sheets, an IV running insulin and fluids into her arm while monitors track vitals that Marcus reads with the fluency of unwanted expertise. Her skin has the waxy pallor of severe hyperglycemia, her breathing rapid and shallow. But she's conscious, and when she sees him, her eyes brighten with relief that breaks something in his chest. "Daddy." Her voice is weak, frightened. "I'm sorry. I forgot to check before gym, and then I felt weird and I thought I could wait until lunch." "Shh, baby. Not your fault. Never your fault." Marcus takes her free hand, gentle despite the panic still coursing through his veins. "You're going to be fine. Dr. Patel is the best. We've got this." Dr. Patel finishes reviewing monitor readings, her expression professionally neutral, in that way doctors perfect when delivering news that's serious but not catastrophic. Her levels are coming down with the insulin drip. We'll need to keep her in pediatric ICU overnight for observation. Make sure we don't overcorrect and send her hypoglycemic. I want to run a full metabolic panel, adjust her baseline insulin regimen. She's been having too many episodes. Her current dosing isn't keeping up with her growth. Marcus nods, already doing math that's easier now but still concerning. Even with his new insurance from Silverwing, he's looking at out-of-pocket costs, but not the crushing, impossible kind anymore, just the normal, expensive kind that employed people deal with. Whatever she needs. The words are automatic, but this time they don't come with the weight of choosing between rent and medication. His phone buzzes. "Victoria." He answers. "I can't talk right now. Lily's in the ICU." Victoria's voice comes through clear, controlled. "I know. The hospital called me as her secondary emergency contact. You listed Silverwing's employee assistance program when you enrolled. How bad?" "Ketoacidosis. They're stabilizing her, but she needs overnight monitoring, metabolic panel, prescription adjustment." He's aware of Lily listening, tries to keep his voice calm despite the fear that never quite goes away. "I'm not leaving her." "I wouldn't expect you to." A pause. "Marcus, the expo is in 3 days. The demonstration you've been preparing. 8,000 people, global media, your chance to prove everything you've been saying about diagnostic approaches. The implication hangs between them. Miss the expo, miss the opportunity to validate his reinstatement in front of the entire industry. Stay with Lily, protect the only thing that actually matters, and let someone else take credit, or let the demonstration fail without him there to troubleshoot. I'm not doing it." The decision crystallizes with surprising clarity. Lily is everything. The expo is just theater. Find someone else or cancel it. I don't care. What if I told you I'll stay with her? Victoria's offer comes quickly, like she anticipated his refusal and prepared her counter. "Every second you're at the expo, I'll be here, monitoring her care, making sure she has whatever she needs. You won't miss anything important because I'll text you updates every 30 minutes. And if anything changes, anything at all, you drop everything and come back. Marcus looks at Lily, who's watching him with an expression that's too old for 9, too aware that she's the reason he's considering abandoning something important. Baby, what do you think? Lily's voice is thin, but certain. Mommy said you'd fly again. She told me in my dream. She said I had to be brave, so you could be brave too. Her eyes water. I don't want to be the reason you don't do the thing that proves everyone wrong about you. The weight of his daughter's selflessness, learned from watching him sacrifice for 7 years, crashes through Marcus's chest like a physical blow. She's 9 years old and already thinking her needs are negotiable, already willing to minimize her fear so he can pursue validation he doesn't even particularly want. You're never the reason I don't do something, Lily. You're the reason I do everything. He smooths her hair, careful not to disturb the IV. But if Miss Victoria stays with you, if you're okay with that, maybe we can do both. Maybe brave means trusting people to help instead of doing everything alone. Lily looks past Marcus to Victoria on the phone, evaluating with the seriousness she applies to engineering problems. Will you really stay the whole time and tell my daddy if I get scared? Victoria's voice comes through the speaker. Every second, and I'll text him so often he'll probably get annoyed. Plus I'll bring my laptop. We can work on that turbine cooling design you were sketching. Turn it into actual technical specifications. Something in Lily's expression shifts. Not quite trust, but willingness to attempt it. Okay, but Daddy, you have to promise you'll come back right away if I need you. Promise for real, not grown-up promise that means probably. Marcus extends his pinky finger, the gesture he's used since she was small enough to think pinky swears were legally binding. Real promise. The second you need me, I'm here. Nothing is more important than you. Nothing. They hook pinkies and Lily squeezes with surprising strength for someone whose blood chemistry is still dangerously unbalanced. Then, go prove you're the smartest engineer in the world. Mommy's watching. She'll be proud. The invocation of Carolyn's eternal witness undoes something in Marcus's carefully maintained composure. He blinks hard, refuses to cry in front of his daughter in an ICU, saves the breakdown for later when she's stable and he's alone. I love you, baby girl, so much. I love you more, but that's mathematically impossible to prove, so we'll call it a tie. Victoria arrives at the hospital 20 minutes later, laptop bag over her shoulder, looking determined and slightly uncertain. Lily evaluates her with the directness of someone who's learned that adults sometimes make promises they can't keep. You promise you'll stay? The whole time? Victoria sits in the chair beside Lily's bed. I promise. And I brought something for us to work on together. Real engineering problems, not made-up ones. Lily's eyes brighten slightly despite her exhaustion. Okay, but if my sugar goes weird, you have to tell Daddy immediately, even if he's in the middle of talking to important people, especially if he's talking to important people. Victoria pulls out her laptop. Now, show me this cooling system design you were working on. I want to understand your thinking about environmental sensors. Marcus watches them for a moment. His daughter and this woman who 3 weeks ago was a stranger, now forming something that looks almost like trust. He kisses Lily's forehead. I'll have my phone on. Loudest volume. The second you need me. You'll be here. I know, Daddy. Go prove truth beats algorithms. The Seattle Convention Center erupts with controlled chaos 3 days later. 8,000 aerospace professionals crowd an exhibition hall the size of an aircraft hangar, Vendor booths displaying next-generation components that cost more than most houses, executives networking with the aggressive friendliness of people who measure relationships in contract values. At the center of it all, on a raised platform under lighting that belongs on a Broadway stage, sits Marcus's demonstration turbine, the Silverwing advanced diagnostic system that will either revolutionize industry standards or confirm that his expertise is a relic from a pre-algorithmic era. Marcus stands backstage in the sport coat Colonel Hayes lent him, slightly too large in the shoulders but better than anything he owns, listening to the moderator introduce him to a crowd that includes FAA officials, corporate executives, and enough engineers to fill a small university. His hands shake, not from fear of the demonstration. He's run this sequence 40 times in the past 3 days and knows every tolerance down to the micrometer, from the phone in his pocket, which buzzes every 30 minutes with updates from Victoria. 11 a.m. Lily's blood sugar at 180, stable and trending down. She's teaching the nurse about thermodynamic efficiency. You raised a tiny engineering professor. 11:30 a.m. Doctor says metabolic panel looks good. New prescription is ready. She wants to know if you're nervous. 12 p.m. Lily watched your intro on my phone. Direct quote. Daddy looks like he's going to throw up, but his tie is straight, so he's probably fine. She's not wrong. The moderator's voice carries through the speaker system. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to introduce Marcus Warren Reid. Many of you remember him from Lockheed Martin, where his work on advanced turbine systems set industry standards. After an 8-year absence from public aerospace work, Mr. Reid returns to demonstrate a diagnostic approach that challenges fundamental assumptions about how we identify mechanical failures. Please welcome him to the stage. Applause ripples through the crowd, polite, professional, undercut with skepticism, audible even through the noise. Marcus walks onto the stage into lighting so bright it turns the audience into shadows, into anonymous judgment that can't see how badly his hands want to shake. Behind him, on a massive screen, the Silverwing logo pulses next to real-time feeds from diagnostic sensors embedded in the demonstration turbine. He takes the microphone, and the weight of it feels both foreign and familiar. Good afternoon, I'm Marcus Reid. 8 years ago, I was blacklisted from this industry for filing a whistleblower report about hydraulic system flaws that would have killed 450 pilots. His voice carries steady, despite the tremor in his chest. I was told I was difficult, unstable, vindictive. The congressional testimony 3 years later quietly confirmed I was right about everything. Today, I'm here to show you what else you've been wrong about. The bluntness lands like a controlled detonation through the audience. Murmurs ripple, executives exchange glances, but no one leaves because controversy sells, and everyone wants to see if the disgraced engineer can back up his audacity with competence. Modern aerospace diagnostics rely almost entirely on algorithmic interpretation of sensor data. We trust computers to tell us what's wrong because computers don't have emotions or biases or reputations to protect. Marcus moves to the turbine, places his hand on the housing. But computers also don't understand context, don't feel micro vibrations, don't hear the specific silence between sounds that indicates a problem is hiding where sensors aren't looking. He begins the live demonstration, not PowerPoint slides or pre-recorded footage, but actual real-time diagnostics on a turbine pre-programmed with the exact failure that stumped Silverwing's engineers 3 weeks ago. The crowd watches in near silence as Marcus bypasses diagnostic computers, uses manual calibration tools that most engineers present have only seen in museums, and identifies the problem in under 8 minutes. The AI diagnosis says catastrophic core failure, requiring full replacement at $38 million. He pulls up the computer's recommendation on the big screen. But if you actually listen to the machine instead of the algorithm interpreting it, his hands move across the valve housing, adjusting micrometers at a time. You find thermal expansion in a secondary bypass valve, $4,800 part, 15-minute fix. He makes the adjustment on stage, real time, while 8,000 people watch with the fascination of seeing a magic trick they can't quite figure out. The engine roars to life, clean, perfect, exactly as promised. The efficiency readings on screen climb past factory specifications. The crowd erupts in applause that starts hesitant and builds to genuine appreciation. But Marcus isn't finished. This failure pattern has occurred in 3 other Silverwing aircraft in the past 18 months. Each time, our diagnostic AI recommended full core replacement. Each time, we spent $38 million and 52 hours because we trusted algorithms over expertise. He lets that sink in, lets the executives in the audience do math on wasted capital. Total cost of misdiagnosis, $114 million. Total cost if we'd listened to metal instead of code, $14,400. The applause dies into uncomfortable silence. He's not just demonstrating competence, he's exposing institutional failure at a scale that implicates every company present. Tyler approaches from stage left, hands Marcus a tablet. Mr. Reid, we just pulled historical data from our maintenance logs. 47 similar incidents across the industry in the past 3 years. Estimated total expenditure on misdiagnosed failures, $4.2 billion. Marcus displays the data on the screen behind him, $4.2 billion. The number hangs in the air like an accusation. That's what trusting computers over engineers costs. That's what happens when we stop teaching people to actually understand the machines they're supposed to be maintaining. We've built an industry that can't tell the difference between catastrophic failure and environmental calibration error because we've forgotten how to listen. The silence shifts from uncomfortable to electric. This isn't a demonstration anymore. It's an indictment, and everyone present knows they're either part of the problem or about to become part of the solution. Robert Brennan appears from backstage, pale but determined, takes the microphone without being invited, and Marcus tenses because this wasn't scripted. My name is Robert Brennan. Until 2 weeks ago, I was VP of Engineering at Silverwing. I stood on this stage 5 years ago presenting turbine designs that I claimed were my innovations. His voice shakes. They weren't. I stole them from Marcus Reid. I helped blacklist him to protect my theft. And I stayed silent while the industry spent $4 billion on failures we could have prevented if we'd listened to the man we buried. The crowd erupts, not applause, but chaos. Voices raised in shock and recognition and dawning horror at the scope of what Brennan is confessing. Media cameras swarm. Executives reach for phones. Marcus watches Brennan self-destruct on global stage and feels no satisfaction, just exhaustion at how much damage cowardice compounds over time. Victoria joins them on stage, takes her own microphone with the command of someone accustomed to controlling rooms. Silverwing Aviation is establishing the Caroline Reid Memorial Safety Fellowship, $5 million endowment, scholarships for ethical engineering, grants for whistleblowers facing financial hardship, and industry-wide advocacy for diagnostic protocols that value human expertise alongside algorithmic efficiency. She looks directly at the FAA officials in the front row. We're also proposing new regulatory standards requiring manual verification of AI diagnostic recommendations before authorizing major component replacement. Because $4 billion in waste is just the financial cost. The human cost is incalculable. Colonel Hayes stands from the audience, his dress uniform creating instant authority. I'm Colonel Raymond Hayes, retired Air Force. Marcus Reid's 2017 whistleblower report saved my squadron. Every pilot in this room owes their life to engineers willing to tell uncomfortable truths. His voice carries the weight of someone who's commanded people in life or death situations. The question isn't whether Mr. Reid is right. The congressional testimony proved that years ago. The question is whether this industry has the courage to admit we've been wrong and change accordingly. The crowd's energy shifts. What started as a demonstration becomes a movement, becomes the kind of inflection point where people either choose comfort or choose courage. And Marcus stands at the center of it. The janitor who fixed an impossible engine, now forcing an entire industry to reckon with its institutional cowardice. His phone buzzes. 12:30 p.m. You're trending on aerospace Twitter. Lily says, quote, "That's my daddy proving truth beats algorithms." Also, her blood sugar is perfect, and she's demanding we watch your whole speech again. You're doing great. She's doing great. Finish strong. Marcus reads the message, and something in his chest unclenches. Lily safe. The demonstration worked. Truth, for once, is winning against the comfortable lies that keep expensive mistakes justified. He looks out at 8,000 people watching him prove that expertise matters, that honesty has value, that resurrection is possible if you're willing to burn down the structures that killed you the first time. The standing ovation lasts 4 minutes, long enough for Marcus to remember what vindication tastes like, and to realize it's sweeter when your daughter is safe, and the dead wife you're honoring would be proud. The applause finally dies as Marcus exits the stage into chaos he didn't anticipate. Media requests, executives wanting meetings, engineers asking questions he's too exhausted to answer coherently. He pushes through the crowd with single-minded focus, ignoring business cards thrust at him, deaf to congratulations that feel hollow when Lily is still in a hospital bed watching his triumph on borrowed screens. The Civic navigates Seattle traffic with Marcus breaking enough laws to justify arrest but careful enough to avoid it. The same controlled urgency that's defined his relationship with crisis for 3 years. His phone shows 16 missed calls, 43 texts, and 1 message that matters. She's asking for you. Come home. Seattle Children's Hospital at 3 p.m. looks identical to how it looked 3 days ago. Antiseptic, fluorescent, full of parents wearing fear-like ill-fitting clothes. Marcus bypasses reception with the confidence of someone who's memorized floor plans through repetition no one wants. Pediatric ICU, room 12, where Victoria sits in an uncomfortable chair reading turbine specifications to a 9-year-old who should be worried about multiplication tables instead of metabolic dysfunction. Lily's face transforms when she sees him. "Daddy, you were amazing. Miss Victoria showed me the whole thing, and you made all those fancy people look silly, and you didn't even sound nervous even though your hands were shaking at the beginning." Marcus is beside her bed in 3 strides, gathering her into a hug, careful of the IV line still running into her arm. "Hey, baby girl, how are you feeling?" "Better. Dr. Patel says my numbers are perfect and I can go home tomorrow if they stay good overnight." She pulls back to study his face with unnerving perception. "Did you win?" The question carries weight beyond the demonstration. Did you prove they were wrong? Did you make mommy proud? Did choosing to leave me work out okay? Marcus chooses his answer carefully. I showed them what truth looks like when you stop hiding it. Whether that's winning depends on what they do with the information. Victoria stands, gathering her laptop and tablet with efficient movements. The FAA officials requested a meeting Monday. 3 aerospace firms called, asking about consulting contracts. And Brennan's confession is trending globally. We're getting inquiries from international regulatory bodies about implementing similar whistleblower protections. She pauses at the door, looks back at Marcus and Lily with an expression that carries something more complex than professional satisfaction. Thank you for trusting me with her. She taught me more about thermodynamic systems in 3 days than my engineering team has in 3 years. After Victoria leaves, Lily settles against her pillows with a satisfied expression of someone who's been proven right about something. I like her, Daddy. She listens like you do, like the answers matter more than being right. Marcus smooths her hair, this gesture that's become muscle memory over 9 years. Yeah, baby, I think I like her too. Mommy would approve. I asked her in my dream and she said Miss Victoria has kind eyes hiding behind scary boss face. Lily yawns, the exhaustion of crisis finally catching up. Daddy, do you think we're going to be okay now? Like, really okay, not just pretend okay? The question deserves honesty. I think we're going to try being okay. Try is better than giving up, even when it's scary. That's what Mommy used to say. Lily's eyes drift closed, medication and relief pulling her towards sleep. Love you more than algorithms can calculate. Love you more than that's mathematically possible. Marcus kisses her forehead, stays beside her bed as her breathing evens into sleep, watching monitors that show stability hard-won and temporary but real enough for now. His phone buzzes. Text from Tyler. Mr. Reid, the junior engineering team wants to know if you're hiring. Half of us are ready to quit our current positions to work under someone who actually knows what they're doing. Another text, this one from a number he doesn't recognize. This is Dr. Sarah Chen, Pediatric Endocrinology. Ms. Ashford arranged for me to review Lily's case. I have some ideas about a new insulin pump system that might prevent these episodes. Can we schedule a consultation? And finally, from Victoria, Monday morning, 8 a.m. We're redesigning diagnostic training for the entire industry. I need you to tell 200 engineers everything they've been doing wrong for the past decade. Also, the board approved expanding your team. Hire whoever you trust. Build something that lasts. Marcus reads the messages in the quiet of his daughter's hospital room, surrounded by evidence that crisis is survivable, and that resurrection isn't metaphorical if you're willing to do the uncomfortable work. Thinks about Caroline, about the promise he made to protect truth, about Lily watching him prove that integrity has value even when the world spends years arguing otherwise. His reflection in the darkened window shows someone different than the invisible janitor from 3 weeks ago. Same scars, same exhaustion, but shoulders back and eyes forward. The posture of someone who stopped hiding. Outside, Seattle's winter rain drums against glass, washing the city clean of nothing but making the attempt anyway. Inside, monitors beep their steady reassurance that some things stabilize if you give them time and care and refuse to accept that brokenness is permanent. Marcus settles into the uncomfortable chair for the night, holding his daughter's hand, phone full of opportunities he's still learning to trust. Future uncertain but no longer defined entirely by what he lost. Resurrection isn't revenge. It's rebuilding. And for the first time in 8 years, he has the tools and the courage to construct something worth the cost of standing back up. Tomorrow brings discharge papers and new prescriptions, and the hard work of proving today's triumph wasn't temporary. But tonight, his daughter breathes easy and truth won around, and that's enough. 10 months later, October rain hammers Seattle with the kind of persistence that turns the city silver, each drop a tiny mirror reflecting a sky the color of old pewter. Marcus Reid's office on the 10th floor of Silver Wing Aviation overlooks Boeing Field, where planes take off and land with the regularity of a heartbeat, each one a testament to systems that now value truth over convenience. The office is modest by executive standards. No mahogany desk that costs more than cars. No abstract art that exists solely to intimidate. Instead, whiteboards covered in equations, a workbench near the window where actual turbine components wait for analysis, and photographs. Caroline, 8 months pregnant, glowing despite what was coming. Lily at the science fair last month, first place ribbon, holding a working model of her environmental adaptive cooling system. Victoria at the ribbon cutting for the Caroline Reid Safety Training Center, trying not to cry and failing beautifully. Marcus checks his watch, 2:43 p.m., closes his laptop mid-sentence, ignoring the unfinished report that will still be unfinished tomorrow. Contract language about safety protocols can wait. Lily cannot. He grabs his jacket, no longer the janitor's uniform, but a simple blazer that fits properly, bought off the rack because expensive doesn't mean better, and he learned that lesson the hard way. Passes Tyler's office, where the former junior engineer, now senior safety analyst, is training 3 new hires on diagnostic methodology that prioritizes ears over algorithms. Leaving boss? Tyler grins, knows the answer. 245 rule. Non-negotiable. Give Lily my congratulations on the scholarship. Full ride to MIT at 9 years old is insane. She's not going until she's at least 14. I don't care how smart she is. Marcus pauses. But yeah, I'll tell her you're proud. The elevator ride down feels different than it did 10 months ago. Then he was choosing between survival and surrender. Now he's choosing what to build with the space between catastrophe and hope. The parking garage houses his vehicle, no longer the dying Civic, but a restored 1987 Ford F-150, navy blue with chrome bumpers that gleam despite Seattle's best efforts to corrode everything. Victoria had found it in a salvage yard, spent 3 months helping him restore it on weekends, learning to work with her hands instead of just her mind. The truck represents something they built together, literal and metaphorical, proof that broken things can run again if you care enough to do the work. Madison Elementary at 2:58 p.m., 2 minutes early, because the truck's engine doesn't threaten to quit at stoplights anymore. Lily emerges from the building in a cluster of friends, backpack nearly as big as she is, holding a rolled poster that probably contains revolutionary aerospace designs disguised as a 4th grade art project. She spots the truck, her face transforming with the kind of pure joy that makes every decision Marcus has made worth the cost. Runs to him, launches herself into a hug that smells like watercolor paint and apple juice and the future. Daddy, look what I made! Unrolls the poster, a detailed schematic of a solar-powered auxiliary turbine system, complete with thermodynamic calculations that would make most college students cry. Mrs. Henderson says it's very creative, but I don't think she understands it's actually functional. Marcus studies the design with the seriousness it deserves. This is brilliant, Lily. Genuinely innovative. We should build a prototype this weekend. Really? Really? You're thinking like an engineer, like your mom would. They climb into the truck. Lily buckles in, chattering about her day. The math test she finished in half the time, the book about Marie Curie she's reading, the boy who said girls can't be engineers and got educated by Lily in front of the entire class. Marcus drives toward home, listening to his daughter occupy space in the world with the confidence of someone who's never been told her brilliance is inconvenient. Home is no longer the cramped apartment with the rattling heater. It's a modest two-bedroom house in Ballard. Nothing fancy, but with a garage Marcus converted into a workshop and a backyard where Lily conducts experiments that occasionally require the fire department's understanding. Victoria co-signed the mortgage as a friend, refused to let Marcus pay her back, said some investments aren't about money. The driveway holds two vehicles, Marcus's F-150 and Victoria's Volvo wagon. Practical, safe, the choice of someone who stopped using cars as status symbols and started using them as transportation. Victoria sits on the porch, laptop balanced on her knees despite the rain, working remotely because she restructured her own schedule to prove executives can have boundaries too. She's no longer CEO, stepped down to COO 8 months ago, delegated the parts of leadership that required sacrificing humanity for efficiency, kept the parts that let her build systems worth believing in. She looks up when the truck pulls in, and her smile is small, but genuine. The kind that took her 44 years to learn. How was school, Lily? I made a solar turbine, and Tommy Peterson said girls can engineer, and I proved him wrong with thermodynamics. Lily hops out, gives Victoria a hug that's become as natural as breathing. Are you staying for dinner? If your dad's cooking, my kitchen skills haven't improved much. Marcus locks the truck, joins them on the porch. I'm making pasta. The kind with actual vegetables hidden in the sauce, so Lily eats something green. I know they're in there, Daddy. I just pretend I don't because it makes you happy. They head inside, this constellation of three people who've learned that family isn't about biology or legal documents, but about showing up when it matters. The living room walls are covered in Lily's drawings, aircraft designs, mathematical proofs, increasingly sophisticated blueprints that engineers twice her age study for insights. And on the mantel, in a place of prominence, Caroline's photograph. 44 years old in the picture, laughing at something off camera, alive in the way that only exists in memory now. Fresh flowers sit beneath the photo. Marcus replaces them every Sunday. A ritual Lily helps with. Keeping Caroline present not through grief, but through the active choice to remember joy. Dinner is chaos in the best way. Lily explaining her solar turbine concept while Victoria asks engineering questions that are genuinely curious, not patronizing. And Marcus tries to ensure everyone actually eats instead of just talking. The conversation ranges from thermodynamics to fourth-grade drama to the upcoming meeting with Boeing executives who want to license Lily's cooling system design. I told them Lily's a minor and any contracts go through me, Victoria says, twirling pasta. They offered $500,000 for the patent. I negotiated to $2 million plus royalties. Marcus nearly chokes on his wine. You what? It's a revolutionary design. They were lowballing because she's 9. I made sure they paid what it's actually worth. Victoria looks at Lily. The money goes into a trust for your education. You'll have every opportunity your mom would have wanted for you. Lily processes this with the seriousness of someone who understands money as security, not luxury. Can some of it go to the Caroline Reid Foundation? For families like us who need help? The question lands in the sudden quiet like a stone in still water. Marcus's vision blurs slightly. Victoria reaches across the table, squeezes his hand. Yes, Marcus manages. Half goes to your education, half goes to the foundation. We'll help other families together. After dinner, Lily retreats to her room to work on homework that's 2 grade levels ahead of where she should be. Marcus and Victoria clean up in the comfortable silence of people who've learned that not every moment needs filling with words. She asked me today if I was her stepmom. Victoria's voice is casual, but her hands pause mid-dishwashing. Marcus goes still. They've been dating, if that's even the word for what they're doing, for 6 months. Slowly, carefully, building something based on shared values rather than desperation or convenience. But they haven't defined it. Haven't put labels on the way she's at his house 4 nights a week, the way Lily asks her opinion on everything from math homework to whether Marcus's beard looks scruffy. What did you say? I said I wasn't technically, but I'd be honored if she wanted to think of me that way. That families come in all configurations and ours was building itself day by day. Victoria meets his eyes. Was that okay? Marcus pulls her close. This woman who saved his career and then slowly, carefully earned her way into the spaces Caroline left empty. That was perfect. They stand in the kitchen, holding each other while rain drums on the roof, and Lily hums to herself in the next room, and the life they're building together settles into something that feels almost like peace. Later, after Victoria goes home, they're taking it slow. No cohabitation yet, letting Lily adjust to the shifting family constellation at her own pace. Marcus tucks Lily into bed. She's surrounded by books about physics and engineering, her walls covered in posters of Sally Ride and Katherine Johnson and Mae Jemison, women who proved brilliance doesn't have a gender requirement. Daddy? Lily's voice is sleepy, but her eyes are sharp. Are you happy? The question deserves honesty. Yeah, baby, I am. Are you? I miss Mom. I'll always miss Mom. She pauses, choosing words carefully. But I think we're building something she'd like. Something good. Marcus kisses her forehead, this ritual they've maintained since she was small enough to fit in the crook of his arm. Your mom would be so proud of you. Not just because you're brilliant, but because you're kind. Because you use your gifts to help people. That's what you taught me. Lily yawns, sleep pulling her under. Love you more than algorithms can calculate. Love you more than that's mathematically possible. He stays until her breathing evens out, watching her sleep with the specific gratitude of someone who knows how easily he could have lost all of this. Then he retreats to the garage, to his workshop, where a half-assembled prototype of Lily's solar turbine waits for attention. His phone sits on the workbench, last message still visible. From the FAA director. Mr. Reid, your testimony before Congress next month regarding industry-wide diagnostic reform, we're estimating your recommendations could save 12,000 lives over the next decade. Thank you for refusing to stay silent. 12,000 lives. The number seems impossible, too large to feel real. But Marcus thinks about the 450 pilots Hayes mentioned, about the families who'll never know they were saved because engineers finally started listening to truth instead of algorithms. Thinks about Caroline, about the promise he made in a hospital room to protect truth and protect Lily. He's done both. Is still doing both. Will keep doing both until the work is finished, or he is. Marcus picks up a wrench, not the battered tool from his janitor cart, but a precision instrument from the set Victoria gave him for his birthday, engraved with words Caroline used to say. Truth doesn't need permission. He gets to work on the prototype, hands moving with the confidence of someone who's finally allowed to be who he always was. Outside, Seattle's rain continues its patient work of washing the world clean. Inside, Marcus Reid builds toward a future his wife imagined but didn't live to see. And for the first time in 8 years, that feels like enough. The camera pulls back from Marcus's garage. Through the window, we see him working, bathed in warm light, tools in hand, creating something that matters. Pan to Lily's room. She sleeps clutching her sketchbook, dreams full of designs that will change the world. Pan to Caroline's photo on the mantle. Flowers fresh, candle still burning. Present not through haunting, but through the love that refuses to be diminished by death. Fade to black. Text appears on screen. The Caroline Reid Memorial Safety Fellowship has funded 127 whistleblower cases and changed industry-wide protocols across aerospace, automotive, and medical device manufacturing. Between 2025 to 2035, the fellowship's safety initiatives are estimated to have saved 14,200 lives. Marcus Reid served as Chief Safety Officer at Silver Wing Aviation for 12 years before joining the National Transportation Safety Board as Senior Advisor. Lily Grace Reid graduated from MIT at 17 with dual degrees in aerospace engineering and applied mathematics. She now runs the Reid Institute for Ethical Engineering. Robert Brennan spent 8 years on Marcus Reid's safety team before establishing the Redemption Through Accountability program, helping engineers blacklisted for whistleblowing rebuild their careers. Victoria Ashford and Marcus Reid were married in a small ceremony in 2028. When asked for comment, Marcus said, "Some families are born, some are built. Ours was worth the wait."